Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Republican Representative Mary Felzkowski of R-Irma is seeking re-election in the 35th Assembly District. Representative, welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Well, thanks for having me, Steve.
My question for incumbents, if you're re-elected, top goal, top priority in the next session?
Healthcare access.
Healthcare access.
Healthcare access.
How can we preserve and expand healthcare in rural Wisconsin?
You know, it's not just rural. We're seeing, when I say healthcare too, I'm including oral healthcare in that too. So we're bad as a state on access to oral healthcare, like we're 45th in the nation.
What about that pilot program?
We haven't gotten the results on that yet, so we're waiting for the results on that, but I think there's a lot of things that we can do in the meantime to increase access. And it's rural Wisconsin, and it's also a lot of the urban areas too for healthcare. We are #1 in the nation on quality of healthcare in the state of Wisconsin. I don't think everybody realizes that. But that doesn't mean that there's the access that everybody should have. So that is kind of one of my priorities to work on going in this year, into this session.
Some potential things you will be interested in pushing in terms of healthcare.
So when we look at the dental scope of it, we are looking at mid-level providers, the dental therapy legislation. We introduced it late last session.
Mm-hmm.
Really didn't have time to move it through, but I wanted to expose our legislature to it. So we're going to be looking at that. It's worked great in Minnesota. I think it can work great in model in the state of Wisconsin. In addition to that, FDAs, increasing the ability for people that are already in the profession to expand what they're allowed to do.
What are FDAs?
FDAs are, oh good Lord, it's an advanced dental assistant.
Okay.
So then it expands what they're able to do in practice. The Wisconsin Dental Association brought it to us last session. We didn't get it done. It was kind of late in the session. Access to rural health care, we have to look at, we can incentivize through pay and different things, but I think what it really is going to take, Steve, is looking at our colleges and helping get people into the programs at the collegiate level. We've put all this money into, we'll pay increases and different things, but if you don't have the bodies, especially around mental health care,
mm-hmm.
We need practitioners. So I think that's where we start to look at the scope.
As a member of finance, you hear about our Medicaid reimbursement rates.
Mm-hmm.
Are they so low we're at a tipping point that threatens the quality of health care under our MA program?
I don't think it threatens the quality. Again, I think it threatens the access.
Okay.
Providers still, providers need to make $1 to keep their practices open. So it gets to the point where we need to increase those Medicaid rates so that the Medicaid population has access.
What's at stake in terms of if we don't address rural health care in Wisconsin? What's the future look like in our rural areas of the state?
Well, I think it's not, it's not just rural. It's
okay.
Access to health care, especially in our Medicaid population. I mean, let's just say you have an infected tooth, where do you go? You go to the local emergency room. What can they really do for you? You're not going to work. You're not functioning. Your quality of life is gone. Having that access is keeping our people healthy, and it's allowing them to have the quality of life. And that goes as far as their employment options, their, young children in school. If you've got, health issues and you're not getting treated, you're not learning, and untreated health care becomes extremely expensive down the road. Access to it, quality is going to mitigate things early so they don't turn into full-blown, serious, like a diabetes or untreated. Then we have a lot more issues. It's a cost to the taxpayers. It's a lower quality of life. It's a cost to employers.
Are you hearing about an issue raised by caregivers? AARP estimates that 578,000 Wisconsin residents care for loved ones or even a neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Would you support laws or rules that require hospitals to recognize and work with family caregivers when a loved one is hospitalized? Are you aware of that issue?
Well, I'm very aware of the issue in northern Wisconsin because we're aging demographically. We're aging faster than the rest of the state. I'm open to learning about it, and you know, if it makes sense, let's do it.
Levy limits have been a part of local government's budgeting for 13, 14, maybe 15 years. Some local government leaders say, hey, this hurts our ability to provide local services, but it does control property taxes. Keep levy limits, dial them back, loosen them, or get rid of them?
Keep levy limits.
Keep levy limits.
Yep. The number one thing that I hear in my office since I've been elected is property tax rates. I would love to see us start looking into alternative ways to fund at the local level. Get it off the property tax rolls, maybe a 1/4% of sales tax or something in that nature, because then consumer price index is built right in, you know, inflation, and give the locals, you know, let's say you got 1% sales tax. That's, you know, we took it off your property taxes. You know, for a lot of our fixed income people and lower income people, this property tax rate hurts. So I would love to see different ways of funding it.
Your caucus put forth a plan for highway funding. Didn't get enacted. We still at impasse gridlock. How should this gridlock be resolved? How would you pay for our highways?
You know, that's a great question. And I think that the gas tax is regressive. I don't think that the gas tax is the answer. I think it unfairly targets rural areas and long commuter miles. And we see where the majority of the dollars go. It's not going to rural Wisconsin. We have huge infrastructure needs in the southeastern part of the state. Since that time, I've looked at, you know, and I'm open to looking at it more. It's been a hectic summer. There's a philosophy on treating our roads like a utility, you know, and funding them in that nature. There's, you know, where, let's say we have to put $100 million into a bridge expansion. Toll at each end of that bridge expansion until that bridge is paid for. There's a lot of ideas. And I think, you know, and this isn't a Wisconsin issue, this is a nationwide issue. As cars become more efficient, I mean, I think about myself. When I started in the legislature 6 years ago, I had a car that got 23 miles to the gallon. I now get 33 miles to the gallon. So it doesn't make sense to go with a tax that is, you know, we're becoming more efficient. We need to really look at how is this going to, you know, work into the 21st and 22nd century.
Sometimes I hear candidates say that maybe we should look at miles traveled, that you should report.
I will never support that.
Never support that.
Never.
Why?
Again, it unfairly looks at people in rural and northern areas who travel farther for work. But they are not the high impact and not, you know, where the dollars are going. I can drive my car, you know, back and forth to Wausau, which a lot of my constituents do for work. They're not affecting our roadways in their, you know, Chevy Impala the way the heavy trucks are, or the concentrated, or the infrastructure needs in the rural areas aren't going to compete with the urban areas, like the Milwaukees and the southeastern Wisconsin. So no, I will never support that.
The controversial package of tax breaks, tax incentives for Foxconn. Kimberly-Clark now wants similar incentives. When should state government help private companies? To what extent?
Well, we passed the Kimberly-Clark on a voice vote. I am not in favor of the Kimberly-Clark incentives. If it came down to a roll call, I would vote no on it. There's a big difference here. Bringing a new company and a new technology into the state of Wisconsin with the phenomenal infrastructure build-out that it's going to happen. Kimberly-Clark's been here for 100 years. Their business model did not work. They went to their employees and they could not come up with a plan to be successful in the state of Wisconsin. You know, businesses will ebb and flow and businesses will come and go. Are we going to go to every single business that gets themselves in a catch-22, so to speak? You know, what is going to be the magic number if there's 50 employees, if there's 500 employees? It's a totally different animal, and I think Senator Kappinga did a real good job of expressing that. So, no, it's a totally different animal.
You helped craft a budget that provided more than $600 million in state aid to K-12 schools.
Yes.
When local school officials say, thank you very much, but we need a similar big increase in the next budget, your answer?
We'll see. You know, not only did we do the $600 million, we also did lifting, you know, allowing them to go up with the low revenue issue. So that's going to help a lot of our school districts. We'll see where the state's at. I do think we need to fully, do a good job of funding our schools. I think we need to look at some of the categoricals that we do out there. Special education needs to be addressed. You know, we know that. And I think that'll be a target this time around. We'll see where the schools are at.
Mr. Evers says his budget, if he's governor, would include a $600 million upper for special ed. Is that much needed?
No.
No?
No. No. I don't agree with Tony Evers's with his budget at all. I think it's very bad for Wisconsin. I mean, he's getting rid of the school levy tax credit, and then he says he's going to fully backfill by getting rid of the manufacturing and agricultural tax credit. And he wants us to believe that that's on big corporate profits. That's on the local family farm, and they can't sustain that. So no.
You've watched Choice expand Milwaukee Racine now statewide. Has it expanded enough, or do you think we should expand it further?
I'm about parents choosing the educational opportunities that fit their children's needs. So far we've limited to low-income families where they wouldn't have the resources to do it on their own. And I think that those low-income families need additional options. So yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Big issue in the next budget is going to be the Department of Corrections budget. Green Bay, Waupun, built in the 1800s. Some Democrats, when they ran for governor, said we could cut our prison population by half. Do we need a new state prison?
I think that is a question that needs to be answered by taking a look at how we deal with corrections as a whole. Do we need a new state prison? From what I know of it and what I've been able to learn about it so far, the inefficiencies in running our state prisons because of how antiquated they are, we would have to do the investment up front, but then it would be much more efficient to run them. So there is a cost savings, and can that cost savings actually justify the new prison? I think that's what's being looked at. And if that works, yes. Can we cut our prison? I think we need to look at how we're handling corrections, who's incarcerated. Do we need to have minor, some of our less heinous crimes, maybe reduced sentences and more TAD courts, different things? Yeah, I think we need to look at the whole package of it. We need to look at what other states are doing, because there is a trend in the nation on how we do corrections, and I don't think Wisconsin has kept up to that.
You still like the plan that Lincoln Hills would become, I think, a medium security, and then the counties would run regional facilities for juveniles?
Yes.
Still like that plan?
I do.
UW system budget, we've frozen tuition on resident undergrads for 6 years. The governor would like the tuition freeze extended for a 7th and 8th year. Your position?
It was interesting. We just got the UW request, and I read that when I was in Madison last week or the week before. I think they have a very common sense budget going forward. They are looking for performance growth, to be able to do performance bonuses, which I like, and they are not asking for a tuition increase, so I would be very happy to keep it frozen for another 2 years. I think people need to realize, and I don't think that they always do, that the 10 years prior to 2010, so from 2000 to 2010, there's a 115% increase in tuition. That way outplaces inflation, healthcare, so on and so forth. So I think the UW needed to be reined in. And 115% increase. That's not affordable for families in the state of Wisconsin, and I don't think it was necessary. Are
you pleased with how the 4-year UW campuses are folding in the 2-year colleges?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think it's wise. And I also like the way the UW is giving more learning options. It's fitting in with the needs of how society lives today and how we learn.
You mentioned healthcare. Let's come back to that in this context. The methamphetamine epidemic in northern Wisconsin is truly an epidemic of abuse. And your thoughts on next steps?
I wish I knew. We have done so much with the HOPE agenda, and I talked to my sheriffs, I talked to my DAs. I would love to know what we should do next, and I think we just need to keep the conversation open. And what is causing people, what is the underlying root here? We go back to healthcare. So we have very poor access to dental care in our Medicaid population. So let's say I'm on Medicaid. I have an infected tooth. I have an issue. I go to the emergency room. What can that emergency room doctor do for me? Maybe an antibiotic and a painkiller. Well, when that painkiller runs out, because I can't get in to see a dentist at one of the the FQHCs for 3 months, that's how the backlog is. What am I going to do? I'm going to try to get pain control any way I can. So it's like one more fueling of a crisis of opioid and meth or whatever drug abuse, illegal drug abuse. Is it the full issue? No, but I think there's so many factors that we can do to mitigate it that will start taking meth off the table for people.
Part of this issue are bills in the legislature that would legalize both recreational and medical marijuana. Your position?
I actually am in the process of writing a medical marijuana piece of legislation.
You are?
Yep, I've been working on it for a little over a year. We're using the Ohio model. I'm fully in favor of the medical marijuana, fully in favor of it. I still have reservations about recreational. I need to know more. And I think as we watch states that have gone to the full recreational, we will learn more about it and whether or not that's right for Wisconsin.
Finally, you want to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 6th?
The differences between us, I think that, you know, if you look at where Wisconsin was prior to 2010 in the last 6 years, where we've come with job growth, with prosperity, with business income. You know, being an insurance agent, I work with a lot of commercial clients and a lot of personal clients. I'm seeing people's lives improve. And I think my opponent will walk lockstep with Madison, with the Chris Taylors of, you know, in increasing the taxes, increasing the tax burden on people, and taking us right back to where we were 10 years ago with 9% unemployment and, you know, no job growth and, you know, employers, no confidence, you know, spending confidence amongst consumers. So I represent the Northwoods, I represent my district, and I'm afraid my opponent will just represent Madison.
Republican Representative Mary Felzkowski, of R-Irma, is seeking re-election in the 35th Assembly District. Representative, thanks for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.